our top 5 practical effects movies. Do you guys have your lists ready to go?
Yeah, this was actually a hard list to make. I realized because, like, I like a lot of good movies, and a lot of them from like the 90s and stuff like that we think of, were practical effects because CGI wasn't accessible. But there's a lot of movies where it's like I didn't know it had practical effects in it because they did such a good job with it. So you have to go back and find those really good scenes and realize that they were practical effects.
Yeah.
Did you have better luck than that setting up your list?
Yeah, I actually was pretty quick because some of the movies that I try to remember just like hit me because I still watch them sometimes, like on here and there. So once I kind of like realized which ones were using practical effects and that I believe still hold up really well, yeah, it was a little easier for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So should we do a judge or should we do no judge? What do you guys think?
I say no judge.
Yeah, we're just gonna say that's what we think are the best.
Okay, and then we'll discuss them out. Okay.
Yeah, because Frank's scared of losing.
That's never gonna happen. Okay. Don't make me bust out the Tiana rule on you and just shut you down. Okay, so let's go ahead and Jonathan. Let's start with you then. What is your number 5? We'll go from 5 to 1 if we're gonna do no judge.
Oh yeah, because we're not competing. Okay. For number 5, I put Terminator 2. You guys remember that one?
Yeah,
I didn't say anything.
Oh, did you? Okay. Good.
Yeah.
There were several scenes. This is one of the many of them. I had to watch videos of other people explaining which parts were practical effects. But the villain, I can't remember his name, but the bad dude in that one, they would shoot him. Yeah, and he would be like splats of liquid metal and stuff like that, and then he got blown in half. And there you go. All that stuff was practical effects, which is cool, except for when they like fused him back together. That was
because famously he's one of the first CGI characters too, so it's kind of an interesting pick for best practical effects.
Yeah.
Not that you're not right, but I'm just saying like it's kind of funny that's also happens to be best CGI. Too.
Yeah, a mix of the both. Because when you see like the actor running and he's all deformed and stuff like that, then that's practical effects. But yeah, he does walk in the silver form and stuff like that too in several scenes.
Yeah.
The dream where she's being blown up by the nuke, and you see, was it Sarah Connor, her skin getting ripped from her flesh and from her bones, stuff like that. That was all practical effects. And then the robots, I had to watch this twice. The scene where you see it's like what's gonna happen in the future, and you see it's a icon. It was on the trailers, I'm sure. Yeah. The robots walking and the laser eyes and all that stuff.
Smashes the skull.
Yeah, that was layers of practical effects where they would like film the background footage of what's going on, and then the actual robots themselves were stop motion, which is funny because it's so realistic, it's so effective for robots walking. We just don't realize it because it doesn't look like Gumby. It's it's robots. So it was a really cool mix of it. How they did that.
That's a good one. All right, I'll go next. I'm gonna go with Apollo 13 with Mr. Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon and the like. I freaking love that movie. First of all, just throw that out there. But also. So they were floatless in space, and Ron Howard's trying to figure out, like, how am I going to make these guys float in space, right? So what they did is they built the inside of the shuttle, all the parts have to be floatless, into the Vomit Comet, which is the plane that notoriously dives to get float. I think it's a 747, but it dives so they can get float. Gosh, dang it! What am I thinking?
Simulate zero gravity.
Thank you. Those are the words I was looking for. And so they would film the scenes while the plane's diving. And get them like flying in the air and like having to talk and know their lines before the plane goes back up and does it again and just keep going up and down.
And so if I believe that was only 20 seconds at a time that they would have that zero gravity, and then they'd have to pull back up and reset. Yeah. So they had to get 20 seconds of these guys pushing a pen and playing around or whatever they're doing in those scenes. And then, all right, guys, let's reset. Let's get back up. It's like, man, how nauseous would you be? Going 0G and you go from 0 to like double G, right? Like you have to climb like you would in a plane when you're taking off. So you'd be going back and forth from floating to heavy gravity every 20 seconds or so. That'd be terrible.
And nowadays we would have just CGI'd that plane, that pen floating around or whatever. And instead they had to spend how much fuel to get a shot of a pen spinning, so, and Tom Hanks' time, it's Tom Hanks, dang it. So and then after that you're like, okay, now you're gonna do a movie where the plane crashes. And I just think that's a really good movie. If you guys haven't seen it, it really still holds up quite well. It's amazing how well it holds up. And that's practical effects. If it was done with CGI, you probably could see like, oh, this doesn't look. No, but it's because it's real. It does hold up. Squeaks, what do you got, man?
Yeah, my number 5, I'm gonna agree with John as Terminator 2. I was really loving the fact that how much of the deforming of the T-1000 they would create. Obviously you said with the head exploding, but then like you got like the Tor like rip between the shoulders all the way down, and I think these people are walking in these outfits that literally look like, you know, something see-through. So that was kind of like my big thing. And some of the stuff too, where it's like if the half the body was blown up and it had that liquid look, that they would do some type of machinery for the legs to keep moving or whatnot. So that's what really got me excited. Just on, it's crazy because it's just on that one character alone that you're like, damn, there's so much work put into that. It's crazy how something real too, like practical effects, right, holds up compared to something like CGI. But you put the little mixture together though, and you're like, oh my gosh, which I'm going to talk about one of these here soon.
Yeah.
And it's like you always think it was real the whole time. But yeah.
There's like a rule where it's like the far away shots, the wide shots, I think we're supposed to be CGI, and then the close-ups are practical effects. And I think it's Starship Trooper that's kind of like the one that was the example of them doing that right. And you could tell when somebody nails it, like, you know, I'm sure, like you're saying, we'll talk about it in a bit.
Yeah.
Jonathan, what do you got for number 4?
My number 4 is going to be Jurassic Park. They could apply to pretty much all the Jurassic Parks because they used a lot of practical effects in all of them, and they would do a mix, you know, of both in a lot of cases. But from the original one, the T-Rex itself, they had several scenes where it was CGI, but a lot of scenes where they had to they built a large hydraulic T-Rex to move and do the close-up scenes and eyes and mouth moving and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty cool, but I also saw a video where they were explaining that when it came through the glass of the little Humvee thing that they would drive around, and the girl's like screaming because it's coming down, it's trying to get them, stuff like that was all not planned. It was supposed to like push against the glass, and it failed, it broke, and because it notoriously had all kinds of issues with it, and so it was falling through the glass, and this is, you know, thousands of pounds of machinery that's falling on this girl. So not only is she like, I'm scared there's a dinosaur, she's like, oh my god, I'm getting crushed by equipment, get me out of here. So it's super realistic. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
That's another one we could do, where it's like best acting moments because something got messed up or something like that, because that reminds me of very much The Shining, where they didn't tell, I can't remember her name, they didn't tell the actress
That's so messed
that he's going to break through the wall and start trying to kill her.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden she's like, it's because like, Jack Nicholson's trying to kill me. It's like, nah, I just acted.
And that's like Leo DiCaprio and gosh, what's that
Django
movie?
God, every time we see it.
Chain, rubbing blood on that woman's face. Like, are you serious? That's so many problems right there.
I
so
just
many
watched him
lawsuits
again.
that we'd see today.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. God, he's so good in that movie. It's so crazy.
I don't
Anybody
think I've
seen
seen
the flower? Some sunflower?
Yeah.
What is that?
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, he was really good in that. The movie was probably too accurate to history because it's sad about how terrible white people are. In general, sorry, white people. I haven't heard
about this before, Jonathan.
Damn. Yeah. All right, what happened to John? He's such a white person hater nowadays.
Right? No, but I mean, it was a well-made movie for sure. But at the end, all the terrible things that the white person does, they pretty much get away with it. So that's not great, but good movie. Kind of long. I think they could have shortened it up at least 30 minutes or so, but just in editing. But yeah, good movie. You should definitely give it a shot to watch it. Especially when it's out on streaming. Everybody should watch it then. But if it's still in theaters, you know.
That's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's so good. It's incredible, but it is a little long. And that was the adverse thing where it's like, it's loosely based on true events, the Manson family murders. But at the end, spoiler alert, I guess, but I'm going to just tell you, just kind of like it reminds me very much of like Inglourious Basterds. It's like, what if this happened instead? And it changed the ending of the actual event. So it's kind of sad when you know what really happens, because you're like, oh, this is a happy ending, and that's not how it happened. Actually, people died. And so it's a fantastic movie, Jonathan. If you haven't seen it yet, it's totally worth your time. And he does a really good job in it. And Brad Pitt too kills it. Okay,
I think we should see more of those where they change history a little bit to make it like a better ending story, because we know history, how crappy it was, but I like that when they do that little tweak at the end. Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun when you know it too, so like you understand that it's a different, and that way it's more impactful. Because if you watched into that movie and you didn't know about, the Manson family didn't go this way, they went that way, then you would have been like, oh, okay, just chill ending. But it's a whole different story. Yeah. My number 4 is going to be The Thing, because my God, the monster makeup in that thing when the thing's breaking out of bodies and it's doing this, it still creeps me out today. And that's something that we would definitely want to CGI. I think like Doom, the movie Doom, kind of try to do that a little bit with it. Just amazing makeup, amazing monster effects. It's fantastic. It truly is. And to this day, people are always trying to guess who was actually the thing this whole time and stuff like that. And I just saw a clip from a Stephen Colbert interview where I can't remember his name. God, I can't remember any names today. But they were asking him, like, do you know who it is? And he's like, yeah, if you watch the movie and you pay attention, you'll see who actually is the thing at the end and stuff. But so I gotta rewatch it because it's been a while and try to figure out for myself. It's such a good movie. Squeaks, what do you got for number 4?
Yeah, so number 4, we talked about it earlier, is going to be Jaws. And I think it's because the work that went into the shark itself and how unsuccessful it was, but how Steven Spielberg is a genius and made it work. On top of that, I mean, it's a lot of like sea filming, right? We got actual boats. It's not some fake stuff that we see now that just worries about a big megalodon and you're just in a green screen all around you. So it's just some of these things that turn me on when we're looking doing our research on these practical effects is the effort that it was to get to a location that we don't see all the time anymore. And it is nice when we do see it. Like I think Ring of Powers, then they film. Well, I know Game of Thrones did, but didn't Ring of Powers locate somewhere to do some filming? I could be wrong.
They were in New Zealand for a lot of their stuff. I know that.
New Zealand, okay. Yeah. So it's like some of that is not there anymore. And that's what I really appreciate about Jaws practical effects is that the shark thing being on the boats, but the effort that it took to actually make this movie now.
And to double down on that, if you live in California, you've been to Universal Studios and you've seen where they filmed Jaws in that pond, and you're like, how the hell did that work?
How?
Yeah. And it just blows your mind. And then you see the shark there too, of course. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it would work. But then, like, if you're watching it, you're just like, this is movie magic. This is Steven Spielberg. He had to invent a camera technique to get that underwater, above water effect. That was invented for the movie. There's all kinds of things that they had to do mechanically to make that movie work. And the fact that it didn't work again is kind of the reason it worked so well. And that's just...
And the shark, though, I don't think I could do it to where I know that's a fake shark, but I'm not fucking getting that water. Okay?
Yeah.
So I know you're feeling, but I can't do it.
I always, for like 4th of July, I always scoot the couch real close up to the TV and like watch the thing like it's in a theater. I love Jaws in the summertime. It's such a good summertime movie. There's all kinds of film history stuff on that movie. It's just legendary. It's really good.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so we're moving on to number 3. John, what you got for number 3?
Number 3 is a little more general than everything else. It's probably not fair, but I'm just gonna go with Star Trek because
that is unfair.
And I know that's a massive net, but the detail that they put in the characters, especially old Star Trek had very little budget, and new Star Trek's a lot more budget, and there's a lot of CGI and stuff like that. And there's a lot of scenes and sets and planets that they CGI, but the characters themselves are almost always all practical effects. So they do such a good job of making such a high volume of alien races so uniquely designed with, just movie makeup and practical effects. So in general.
I want to add to yours, Jonathan. When you said that at first, I was like, man, that's a lot of CGI in that though. And when you think of the original series, no. I mean, they actually had the model ship that they were doing filming of the model ship.
I guess that's another thing I should have touched on is almost all the ship shots from several of the series, but especially the original series, is just a model. Yeah. But you think it's just the original series. In Next Generation they still had a model the size of a Volkswagen Bug that would hang in the middle of a room, and they would pass the camera back across it with different lighting and stuff like that to get the shots that they would put a background of stars behind it and stuff. But that was all practical effects.
I love Star Trek
insane
so much. Just talking about it gets me all happy. Then like I remember when you guys were covering it on Trek Freaks, you guys would talk about like, oh hey, this cave, we've seen it in this episode and that episode. Like it was always the same cave. It's just like the camera was turning a different direction, whatever. It's so smart.
Yeah.
All right.
And they would redecorate it to add spider webs or different lighting and stuff like that.
Like this one's purple, that one was green.
Else. Yeah.
My number 3. Oh God, I think I have to say it just because I think it has to be on this list, and I don't know if either of you are going to do it. I'll just say it now. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan worked extra hard to make sure there's a lot of practical effects, especially with the nuclear bombs going off. And I think for a lot of people, this is going to be number 1 on their list. Now I'll admit nostalgia is kind of kicking on number 2 and 1, but it's Christopher Nolan, and I wanted to pick one of his movies because he likes to use practical effects as much as possible. even in things like Interstellar, there's more practical effects than you would assume. And one of my favorite movies of all time, The Prestige, there's very little CGI at all, and that's all about illusions. And they pull those illusions off because they actually did the illusions, and that's super cool. So Christopher Nolan in general, but I'll use Oppenheimer as his example of a super good one.
Nice.
Squid Game.
Yeah, so my number 3 is going to be Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh wow,
a lot
nice.
of a lot of what I like was from something so subtle to creating the character who has like this rip in his mouth, and when he's sewing himself up, something little like that, to these outrageous costumes of the oh god, a monster looking guy with the eye in his hand. Some of those shots were done where it's like, okay, that outfit is waist up, and then on his legs are CGI because his legs in the movies are very skinny, like bones or whatnot. So, and they use like a green pants, whatever. And then also from the insanely Pan's Labyrinth, like I would say the face of it is that ram goat looking monster, right? Now that creature is like 10 feet tall or whatever. And it's cool to see him like walking around and whatnot. And as he's kind of like holding hands of others to try to just get around. But just the costumes alone with that. And again, being in the environment of where they're filming, not just around a studio, is why it kind of, for me, puts it on top of anything else I've mentioned already.
That movie's got Doug Jones in it. He's the one that's the ram or whatever. And is such a dope actor. People forget how good this guy is, but I got some of the stuff he's been on right here. So Pan's Labyrinth right away, but he's also Star Trek Discovery. He's Suru in that. Saru.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows, he's Baron Aphanos. God, he's in everything. He's in Hocus Pocus. No. He's the zombie in Hocus Pocus.
Gosh, man, that's crazy.
I mean, it's one of the better careers, and he's the guy that you probably don't remember. He's in Legion as a monster. He's in Mystery Men as the guy that's wearing his underwear. He's in Hellboy. He's the fish guy in Hellboy. He's literally, anytime they need a skinny dude, they pick him. And so just shout out to Doug Jones. What a stellar actor. The Shape of Water. He's the watery guy. So,
damn. He's definitely employed by Guillermo del Toro, like every movie then.
For sure. That's a really good choice. Okay. So now we're on to our number 2s. Jonathan, what do you got for number 2?
Now that we've been talking about him so much, I don't know if this really qualifies for number 2 because it probably didn't take as much work as some of these other ones, but I'm going Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's my number 1. I'm spoiled. Spoiler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, well, all these other ones, it's like, well, this stuff was super hard to pull off, and yet this seems like they did so much practical effects, but they're doing a steampunk kind of grunge feel that I think they were probably able to make it fit easier than some of the other stuff where they got to cover it up a lot, you know?
Yeah.
But either way, that movie looked really cool, really, phenomenal.
Everything's practical effect, right? I mean, we got the car chases, explosions, costume. I mean, like,
real flames.
What's
all over.
CGI there really? Sometimes it's kind of crazy that there's so much practical effects and it's crazy stunts that they've done that now we're questioning what's CGI instead of the other way around.
That's a good problem to have.
I imagine probably some of the backgrounds here and there they might have had to add some CGI or something like that.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know of any CGI that they specifically used in that movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like, even there's a part where like there's these like ghostly figures walking around, but it's actually guys on stilts. Like I can't tell you if there's what CGI shots there are on there, but I have a feeling that there had to be something, but I just can't tell you. It's so crazy that all that going on. That was actually the movie because they got Furiosa coming out, the new one, the spinoff, where I was like, I want to do practical effect movie because you know what? Thomas has never seen a Mad Max movie.
Man. Damn. Yeah, they're good.
I love them all.
And that's just coming out in a few weeks, right? Isn't that coming out pretty soon?
It's coming out, I think it was May. It's coming out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have him watch Mad Max. We're going over the calendar of everything that's coming out this year and what movies to because sometimes we like to do like, the number 1, let's watch that. Number 2 is coming out. So I said Beyond Thunderdome. We're gonna watch Beyond Thunderdome. Tina Turner is the bad guy. Nice. Oh, that's such a good movie.
Tina Turner.
Hell yeah.
R.I.P.
So if you guys haven't seen them, all the movies are good practical effects movies. But yeah, Fury Road nails it. And so you just took that off my list. Yeah. I have backups that I'm moving into those spots, so we're okay. Yeah.
The downside of working from the bottom up, though.
That's true. That's right. Actually, you're right. I really like the competitive version. We do it the other way around, but that's fine. Okay, so, and also like Jurassic Park was on my list, but that's being moved because you already picked it. I don't want to tie up with you. I want to find something new. in
Yeah.
bringing that forward. So my number 2 is going to be Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Even Empire Strikes Back with that Hoth planet, all that practical effects, it felt so cold. But the original Star Wars, think of like the cantina scene alone. When you're trying to create all these characters, and you're using like the robot that uses the bartender was a coffee maker that they had to modify for the scene. And later on, when they do the Mandalorian and they need a character and it's going to be this assassin drone, they're like, "Hey, remember that coffee maker that you just glued some buttons to? He's a full-fledged character now," And
Right.
so,
do they still make that model coffee maker? Let's go pick one.
Yeah,
up.
seriously.
We need to make another droid.
Like, I think that's his curing on the side. But yeah, it's one of those things where they had to use any little thing they could just to make this movie as cheap as possible and get it out there. And we've built so much on top of it that now these clicks, like there's no touchscreen in Star Wars. These clicks, for some reason, control these massive spaceships. And it's just, Star Trek has the same quote unquote problem where there's like, you're basing it off of 1960s technology, say 70s for Star Wars. And I think the practical effects were so good that it has that lasting effect where today we applaud when Dave Filoni has the Mandalorian use something that feels old school like that with the clicks and the switches. And that's because the practical effects were dope. Yeah, they nailed it.
And just like we were saying with Star Trek, this Star Wars also did a lot of stuff where they had models of their ships.
Yes.
And the cameras would pan around them and stuff like that. So that's just amazing that it looks so good doing that kind of work.
One of the more famous ship shots in all of cinema, I would say, is that one where the very opening of A New Hope, where it's panning over the top of you. You see it just chasing Leia's ship, which they end Rogue One on. Oh, so cool. And so, but that shot right there, it's it's just a model ship that's above the camera, and then they do the lasers as kind of hiding some stuff. Sometimes they were saying because it'll flash the whole screen because it's it's kind of hiding something that we didn't want you to see. It's super cool. Squeaks, what do we got for your number 2?
Oh, this is tough because right now I want to do what you're doing is kind of moving things around because it's already been mentioned. So my number 2 originally was going to be Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park. But I'm gonna go with the American Werewolf in London.
Nice. I've thought about that.
Jump into the horror area.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these old school like 80s horror films are all basically practical effects really.
Yeah.
And the makeup is insane from Freddy Krueger to Big Ugly Jason. I mean, it's Halloween, right? So
yeah, Freddy Krueger.
What I like about American Werewolf, what I like about American Werewolf in London is that they did a super crazy job on the slashes or like the bites on people when it comes to the makeup, and then seeing the werewolf transform and having that like this. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the image, but it's like
the bone
halfway,
cracking.
like halfway morphing, right? So you got some part human and some part werewolf, and you just got the snout with fangs, but like the eyes and everything is still human looking. So I'm gonna do props to Werewolf in London.
I love to see when teams like that are creating new processes, new techniques to make something look realistic. It's an engineering challenge that these guys are. You think they're just cameramen or painters? Like no, these guys are creating new technology, new mechanisms to make the motion that they want it to make, and that's really cool to see.
I like what you said though. It would be cool to bring a team that's done something back then to what would they do now? With the stuff that there's nowadays. So that'd be interesting.
No, we're headed number 1, guys. This is the top dogs. It has to be your best.
Do you want to do honorable mentions before you get into number 1s?
No, because I'm using my honorable mentions right now. I'm filling them in, so I don't want to waste them.
Okay,
what's your number 1, John?
My number 1's going to be Inception. That rotating room scene. Oh man, there's so many cool scenes in Inception. Even when they're in that cafe, I still don't know exactly how they did it, but I've seen that people say this is all practical effects. But when they blast all the market products and stuff like that into the street, anyways, I'm sure there's air cannons and stuff like that.
There's some CGI because I can't imagine they filled a city on top of itself either.
The levitation. Yeah. Really big mirrors.
That's,
it's
possible. Yeah, that's probably
flexible.
Yeah. But the hallway scene is kind of like an example, like one of the best examples of it.
Yeah. So when you see the behind the scenes and this massive machine they made, this rings on rollers and this whole mechanism, and it has to be super precise or else the room's going to flex and stuff while you're in it. And, to build that, and then you put the actors in it and they have to train for I think it was weeks, and how to maneuver inside that room to be able to film it and do take after take to get that right. It's like, that's pretty darn cool. It's just such an engineering feat again to make something like that.
And it's a small shot too. It's not even like it's a long scene. It's really mixed into them doing other things. Really, when you think about that cutaway to that, they're also doing the snow scene. It's like a thing where everything's collapsing at one time. So
and the cars falling in slow motion thing. Yeah. It's like, but it lasts a long time because it's broken up so much, and it's such it really ties in the story. Like, it really makes it so realistic that, oh crap, we're spinning, we're losing control of this, dimension or whatever. So it's like really effective in the storytelling.
I never thought about how much of a slow-mo camera they had to use to get that van, because you have to really bring it slow, and you can't have frames blurring,
frame clipping.
So it has to be like, oof, really good slow-mo camera on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine that making slow motion more precise is how we could use AI nowadays in filming.
Yeah.
So imagine like creating the frames in between the frames. In other scenes, like you can create a stop motion and speed it up, but in something like that, you slow it down as slow as a camera can go, and then make it 4 times slower with AI, drafting frames in between. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure they're already working on it for sure. Something like that.
Yeah.
All right, my number one, and it's tough because there's so many good ones here, but I'm gonna go with Batman from 1989. So, Michael Keaton's Batman. This is a movie, if you think about it, that kind of, in my opinion, brought back the superhero genre in a lot of ways, and is iconic. I mean, we've always, compared this Batman to the Batmans that we get nowadays, and moving forward. And I think the fact that they did this before this movie, the action stars had to be strong and buff, and they had to be Sylvester Stallone. Michael Keaton wasn't. He was a comedic actor for the most part, and then they put him in a foam suit, which at the time was kind of joked about. Sylvester Stallone famously was like, "This is stupid," but now it's how everything's done. Like, they work out a lot, but there's foam in that suit too, and it's such an iconic look. And then again, the fact that his cowl, it couldn't bend, like he couldn't turn his head, and it's fixed in the Christopher Nolan movies, but in those ones it wasn't. And he still made it look cool. He still made it look cool to be a guy who can't turn his head, but you just watch it, you're fine. And then Jack Nicholson playing Joker, being able to move around that museum, and then their fight at the top of the tower and stuff like that. All that was all practical effects. The big balloons, or even the Batwing, are all practical effects. Yeah. And that way the Batwing flies in front of the moon.
Batwing too.
One of the most iconic shots I can think of in a Batman movie. And that movie was so, I think, important to land, because if it didn't land that movie, you didn't get all the Batmans that came after that, and then them trying other superhero movies out. Because when you talk about like the MCU starting off, they had to use examples like Blade worked, Batman works. We have a Spider-Man, boom, Spider-Man works. Let's try Iron Man next. And I think if it wasn't for Batman working out, we might not have had superheroes. It would still be kind of like, comics are for geeks or for kids, and proof, it could be mainstream. So, all right, Squeaks, what do you got for your number one?
That was good. You scared me a little bit because I thought you were picking what I was picking.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is my number one because we moved things around a little bit. Because I think Jurassic Park still like holds up to this day. It's crazy. But I'm gonna go with the Dark Knight Batman. So he's in Batman. I was like, fuck, man, I gotta think something else.
Yeah.
And the reason a couple things I'm saying that is that I believe it was built in a hangar, but I could be wrong. But they built an actual Batcave for this movie. So I'm like, what the shit? That's badass, right? To do the filming. Also, they flip trucks trucks in the streets. They try to get the actual like crashings. They for the football field, they exploded or destroyed some of it, and then CGI came in and did the rest of it, which is again backtracking to how much like it's great to see the combination of the two instead of just all CGI or practical effects. There were times when it would use a cemetery for like the actual like scenery, but then CGI would come in and kind of just change the names off of plates.
Yeah.
But still using your environment, right? So I think this is what it's going to be. What it is for me, explosions, and all I can think about is I don't know how far it went with the explosions of Joker and the hospital, right? If I'm remembering,
they actually blew up the hospital. They only had one shot to make it work. That's why when he's a little bit startled by it was because it was like it wasn't working. They actually had it like it wasn't working well. Heath Ledger
And it was so great that he kind of improvised.
Yes.
God, man.
Oh yeah.
And they made the
he
Tumblr,
could
by
just
the
been
way.
like, guys, what the heck? And yeah.
They actually
Yeah.
made that.
They did what?
They made the Tumblr. They made the Batmobile in those movies. It's real.
Yeah,
That's actually a thing. And that's so freaking cool.
Dark Knight Rises with Bane when they destroys that plane and drops it in midair from a bigger plane.
One.
Like
Yeah.
they legit took a plane up there and dropped it for that scene.
Crazy.
It's like, oh man, that's dope. I mean, obviously over like some open pasture or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Not even on my list, Squeaks,
Yeah.
and that was a really good pick. I want to also. These are all Christopher Nolan movies. We keep talking. I did Oppenheimer. Jonathan, you did it. You know, these are all. They're all Oppenheimer, or they're all Christopher Nolan. So, shout out to Christopher Nolan. We did a whole month of Christopher Nolan movies over on Challenge Accepted. I keep getting praise for that, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, he's just what a director, right?
Yeah.
Damn. Honorable mentions. I'll get my 2 out of the way real quick. We have Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You wouldn't think is super good on practical effects. I've got the facts here. The film sets the record for the most makeup appliances used in a single film, having more than 23,000 prosthetics on over 1,000 actors.
Damn.
Yeah, so if you think about everybody,
I guess all those in that one world, right?
Yes, the animal people. Those are all actual makeup.
Yeah.
They did CGI them. They could have. It would have been super easy, but James Gunn didn't want to do that. And when they're actually back in nowhere, and it's that town of people of different alien races, actual makeup. He did it old school Star Wars ways, and that makes me happy for DCU. So yeah. And then my other one is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, because the way they made the Hobbit and especially Gandalf, the size difference, that was all practical effects for the most part. And they had another set of actors that would stand in when they need somebody shorter and stuff. They did a lot of really cool practical effects on that one and really good shots. Who else do we have for honorable mentions?
Sure. You mentioned Impossible movie, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They do a lot.
Very good stunts that are done usually by Tom Cruise himself, which is crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Wicked.
Yeah. What do you got, John?
So one of my best ones, the movie In Time we reviewed not too long ago. There's a car scene where it jumps off the bridge. It almost looks like, I cannot tell. I'm pretty sure that is 100% a real Hot Wheels car. Yeah. But no, that's an example of terrible practical effects.
You know what's funny, John? So I've been going through some of our old clips and bringing them back so I could do for Throwback Thursdays. And I got that one, and I was watching it again where you're talking about how it's like there's no driveline on that car, and it just flips, and it's just like this thing is plastic at best. It's so funny.
Like you almost expect you're gonna see the stamp on the bottom, like Hot Wheels TM. No, that was just they tried. I'm sure they could have done better. Outside of that phenomenal movie that people haven't seen. People don't even know about it half the time. But Justin Timberlake, really good physical direct. Cillian Murphy, everybody's loving Cillian Murphy right now. Yeah,
he's the bad guy that you're rooting for. Actually, In Time.
Yeah. Let's see what else. One other one I want to mention is Independence Day.
Good.
I've seen a lot of videos about it too, about them. Especially like any movie where they have to build those tiny models and then destroy them, blow them up. God, I can imagine the hours painstakingly building and painting these tiny little structures just to see them blown up. And like, all right, guys, let's build it 2, 3, 4 more times so we can shoot it again. Like, oh my God, that's a lot of work. But it comes out looking really clean when you see the little shrapnel pieces of wood and parts of the building flying. It looks super believable. So
I always want those though.
Very cool.
I hate to see those destroyed. It's like one of the Star Trek ships. I know Enterprise from Next Gen got sold recently. I would dedicate a room to my house to that ship. It doesn't. I don't need whatever. This room, it's gone, and just have it floating right behind me. That would be so cool. I'd hate to blow those up all the time.
Yeah, I'd rather somebody make a museum of Hollywood props like that they can save. Like, hey, when you're making Independence Day, make the White House, but make 8 of them and only blow up 7 so we can save one of them for this museum. Donate it or something. That seems like a museum somewhere. That seems like that would be a museum somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, I know different studios have their stuff, right? Like WB has their WB. I think it's just called WB Studios, actually. I'm trying to think of when I went to the tour. But yeah, I don't know if Paramount has theirs, but we did the WB tour. It was cool to go see the Batman area because you can see all the vehicles and the suits up there. Same with Harry Potter, all the outfits are on mannequins. So
they do a museum on their studio.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, guys, let us know your favorite practical effect movie, what we already forgotten, what you're mad about. So hit us up on the social medias and talk about your favorites. This just got me wanting to watch some movies, to be honest with you. So I think I'm going to be doing that here pretty soon. Yeah, those Dark Knight ones are good. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.